What's up, family? Welcome to Positive Power XXI, J. Royce Films. I'm Jerry Royce Live, and you're watching The Red Room with Shay Samuels, right here on Music Vision Television. That's right, MVTV-21.com. It's going to be awesome, y'all. So please share this file. It's going to be awesome. You know what's going to be? It's going to be lit.
Hello, I'm Dr. Eric Holmes, the author of The Power of the Sea and Soulful Prayers. That is #1 best-selling. And I am in The Red Room with Shay.
Welcome back to another episode of The Red Room. I am your host, Shay Samuels, and once again, we have an amazing topic and an amazing guest. As always, like I said, it gets better and better and better, and every guest that we have brings something different to the platform, so I'm excited to introduce to you today Mr. David Glover.
Hey, how you doing?
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm happy to be here.
You look happy to be here. It's amazing because every time we introduce someone new, we're introducing their platform as well. So I get a chance to introduce you to our audience.
All right, that's amazing. Like she said, I'm David Glover. I also have an alias, the Controversial Counselor. I'm originally from Niagara Falls, New York. Moved here to come work in the schools, Baltimore County school system. So I've been doing that the past 15 years. Eventually got promoted up to being the department chair of school counseling. I did like 8 years in high school, and now this is my 7th year in middle school. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely been a challenge, I'm sure. Yeah. So, and I'm also an author of the book Cocktail Conversations by the Controversial Counselor. Also, do like Facebook Live shows. Yeah. I call it in the Counselor's Corner. So I try to stay active, just getting the word out and just trying to build my platform.
Yeah, well, you definitely are doing an amazing job with building the platform because you're here with us today. You're in the Red Room, so that means that you did some work. Put it that way. Faith without work is dead. But I like the fact that you were talking about being a counselor because, of course, with middle school comes dysfunction. And so I want to talk to you about that today because in this community that we're in right now, there's we're talking about training a child as they should go. We're talking about unity. We're talking about so many things to kind of bring the communities together. And although you may not be the actual community activist, you have a role to play in the children's lives. How does that work for you?
Well, a lot of people say that the counselors, we're like the hub of a school. Mm-hmm. Because no matter what, everybody they come to us for all the we know all the answers pretty much. Yeah. So just the one to try to keep peace with the students, also administration, parents, staff, teachers. So we're like the liaisons. So if everything is good on our end, usually the school is rolling well.
Good. And so when you deal with the children, you went from high school to middle school. How different of a transition was that for you?
Well, at first, I was middle school was the level that I always said that I didn't want to work with because I've worked in college, did that like 10 years at Bryan and Stratton College in Buffalo, New York. Then I also did 1 year in elementary, and then I did 8 years in high school. Mm-hmm. So I was really trying to avoid middle school, but certain things happened that I had to overcome, and then I got offered a department chair position at Golden Ring Middle, and I said, well, it's time for me to pack my lunch and get ready for middle school kids. And it's been, now I don't even think I would go anywhere else.
Wow.
They're hilarious. Wow. And they challenge you all the time, and just their thought process, it kind of keeps you going.
So I have a funny question. How much of you do you see in the children that you are dealing with now in middle school?
Some of it, only like a few, because I was relatively quiet in school, and really I would be quote unquote what they would call a nerd in school. And even some of my like mothers, her friends, their kids, they would say, "Oh, David's a nerd in school. He doesn't talk or do anything," because I was into my books. Now, when I got out in the community, that probably was a different story. When I got with my friends, we would do little things, but in school, it was like I was a whole different person.
Right. So how do you encourage the kids in school when they are, being in school, like you said, is one thing, but being in the community is a whole nother thing. And so with the kids not having parents, kids being teased, bullied, there's bullying, a lot of bullying. Kids are dying at school now, being killed at school now because of bullying. So how much of an impact are you having in their lives right now as it pertains to that level of dysfunction?
Well, it's on a daily basis, and usually a lot of their problems are stuff that happens in the community, and they bring it into school via social media.
Yeah.
And I always can't understand, like, okay, you're 11, 12, 13, why do y'all even have these accounts? And you talk to the parents, but somehow they still end up with them. They're addicted, they're hooked, and they won't put the phones down, and they feel like they got to be a part of something, or they feel like they're missing something. So you constantly hear them going back and forth on social media, and it creates a lot of havoc.
Yeah. That's the downfall too, because there's so many opportunities for them to get a hold of different things. Whereas before, I don't want to say like in your time, but I'm going to say back in your time, there was none of that.
No, not at all. So you didn't have to worry about that. And I tell them stories about that all the time, and they, those kind of stories, I guess they hear them so often from teachers, but so they kind of tune that message out, and they probably hear from their parents as well, and I don't think they can handle social media and everything that's out there.
Yeah.
So it kind of always leads them into trouble.
There's so much out there. I talk about my daughters a lot because I experience a lot through them. In fact, my oldest daughter was the one that actually kind of changed my perspective on this generational gap. I realized that we both were speaking the same language at one point, but it sounded so foreign when we were talking, because she would be talking on one level and I would talk on another. And then it would kind of like one day we just stopped and we listened to one another, and we realized we're saying the same thing. We're saying it from different perspectives, but we are saying the same thing. And my daughter has this thing with generational bondage. There are things that we have been raised on that we've never let go. We take on things from our grandparents and then from our moms, and we never know why we do the things that we do. So from your perspective, I do want to go back for a second though, because you said you didn't even want to do middle school. But it's so like God to actually put you in a place where you're not going to be comfortable, only for you to find out that's where you belong.
Yeah, and I guess that's one of the things, you got to be uncomfortable to grow. So that was the challenge that I needed. And now that's what they say the truest form of counseling, because they're at that funny age.
Yeah.
Some of them, they still want to be babies like they're in elementary, but then some of them are doing way too much for middle school kids, and they want to be older. And I always kind of tell them, like, stay a kid. Y'all rushing into stuff. You really don't want all the issues that adults have. Like, have fun with this, but they're so anxious to be older, and they really don't know what they're going to be faced with.
I mean that the reality of it is that we were the same way too. There are times where I realized that, and I had to be older because I had kids at 16 and 17 years old. But I always used to tell my mom, when I get out this house, I would tell her like, when I get out this house, or she would say, I actually moved out because my mom would say, when you're a certain age, you get your own place. And she said it so much that I actually got my own place. And I was 17 years old when I did that. So I was a little mature, a lot mature for my age. But these kids now, they have to be the moms and the dads in the house. They have younger sisters that they have to raise because mom is either working, and it doesn't always have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to always be mom's on drugs or dad is an alcoholic or he's on the streets. It could be that mom is a single mother and she's working 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. The kid has to come home from school and feed the younger brother or the younger sister to make, to make their, and that they take on a lot more.
Yeah, and that's true, and they might not have as much support as we did. I mean, I was just fortunate that we lived right next door to my grandmother. And she was kind of like one of those community police on the porch, and kind of could see and monitor everything.
I had the pleasure too.
And that was God sent right there, because without her, I don't know, because my father left us. Me and my two brothers and sister left us when I think I was 10. So my grandmother, my grandfather, and my aunts, they kind of chipped in and helped my mother along the way. So without them, who knows what the path I would have traveled. But just because I knew that they supported us and they didn't have to, I knew that I always had to try to do better and be a good example for my siblings.
And so you have a certain level of sensitivity towards the children that you work with, because you understand what it's like to have it, but for them not to. If you can't imagine it, then it's almost like I had it. And it was very kind of scarce for us, so I can only imagine you living in that. When we come back, I want to talk about overcoming, because there clearly has to be some things that you are overcoming at one point. So we're going to take a music break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the overcoming of Mr. David Glover. We're going to talk about that book also, because there's some key points in there that we want you guys to take note of. So we'll be right back after this music break.
I'll praise your name, your blood it covers me. I live to worship you, your name it is so sweet. I'll always follow you, your spirit lives in me. I'll praise your name, the name that covers me. I'll praise your name, the name that sets
Welcome back to the Red Room. I am your host, Shay Samuels, and we are with Mr. David Glover. We are going to be talking about dysfunction in the community. We're actually on the other side. I hope that you enjoyed that music break, but we're on the other side. We're on the side of overcoming. We've talked a lot about the dysfunction. We talked about the children, that he's working with, children in the community. We're talking about unity and the importance of just helping. You had the privilege of having your grandmother and your aunt and others helping your mom as you grew older, and not having a father in the home. And we know that there are a lot of children right now who are growing up either without the mother or without the father. I have a nephew who's being raised by my grandmother, and there's a lot of people who are being raised by the grandmothers. I send out a lot of prayers to the grandmothers. Why? Because they're having to raise children in a generation that they themselves are not aware of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's tough, especially in this generation, because I see it more often that the grandmother is the guardian, and they're older, and just like I said, the social media piece and things like that they don't clearly understand. And these kids are smart; they just take advantage, and then the way some of them may speak to their grandmother. So a lot of times I have to get on the kids right in front of their grandmother, like, listen, who are you talking to like that? And kind of put them in their place. Because, then once the grandmother leave, I kind of tell them, how fortunate you is to have someone that's stepping up, and that's the way you're treating her. So they usually respond to it, at least for that moment.
For that moment, and then you have to keep talking to them again and again and again and again. My daughter's 24 years old, and honestly, I go through so much with her. But like I said, she's the one that's teaching me about the overcoming. There's a lot that I had to learn from her, but I had to listen. I think as adults, a part of the dysfunction that the kids are experiencing, a lot of it is because we're not listening. We know what we know because we've encountered certain things. We've experienced our own lives, our own obstacles, and we put that on them, and they don't feel like we understand them. Our generations are so far apart. I remember in my generation, stonewashed jeans coming out. My mom was still trying to put bell bottoms on me. I wanted the stonewashed jeans, but she kept saying, this is the style. And unfortunately, that wasn't the style then. It came back eventually. You see kids wearing bell bottoms now. But we're at this point now where we're kind of at the kids' mercy. Why? Because they have the answers. We're just not listening.
Yeah. And if they can, with the internet and social media, they have means to find the answer where we didn't have it.
Yeah.
I would go to my grandmother's house and look in the encyclopedia, but that was boring. But they have it right there in their hands. So I always tell them, y'all have a lot of knowledge right in front of you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, sometimes I think they have too much in front of them that they don't always do a good job with.
But let's talk about that, though, because even with the knowledge that they do have, and we understand that there's so much knowledge out there, that would challenge us as adults to actually go out and get the same knowledge. Think about basketball. If you have a basketball team, the opponent on the other side, you're going to study your opponent. Boxing, you study your opponent. Football, you study the opponent. And so if the children are out there and we know they have that much information, why aren't we going out to seek the same level of information? I know for me, I used to listen to rap not because I liked it, but because I wanted to hear what my children were listening to. There were actions behind the music that actually helped me understand why they were acting the way they were acting.
And it's funny that you say rap, because I remember going to a conference in New Orleans years ago, and this one speaker said, if you don't know hip hop, if you don't understand hip hop, you will not have no relationship with children at this point. And it was so true, because just listening to their slang, their lingo, if you don't. And a lot of times there's some teachers come up, well, they said this, I don't know what that means. And I kind of just chuckle, and you have to explain, this is what they're saying. And then even sometimes the kids are explaining to teachers and stuff like what they mean by something. So you got to be informed, and you can't kind of tune it out and say, well, that's your generation. We did something differently.
You can't do that.
They're here, and
Yeah.
we gotta deal with it. You gotta adjust.
And then what we put on them is the title or the stigma of the lost generation. And they're not really lost. If anything, if you really paid attention to how smart they are, the knowledge that they have with social media, for a lot of our businesses, they can help overcome some of the challenges that we have with marketing and promoting. So instead of allowing them to just be on social media to play games or to whatever, we can teach them business opportunities, how to market, how to advertise, and that's how you build the relationship. Ultimately, that's how you build relationships. And so I'm going to challenge parents out there. I don't care who you are, grandmother, teachers. Understand the children's language today, because they do have so much information to empower them, but it can also empower you. If you sit down with one child, even as a counselor, if you sit down with one child and that child had, and you said, okay, here's what I want to do in this area or this arena for this purpose, that child will tell you A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way through to Z, how you can make that happen.
Well, that's true. There's times that I might struggle with technology, and if I have a kid, and they, they kind of like, get out the way, Mr. Glover. This is what you need to do. You're missing this chord, and this is the reason why it's not working.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there amazed, and I'm like, what if you just use that energy just how you showed me in classroom? And then they may say something, well, that's boring, but this is stuff I like.
Yeah.
But then I have to try to put all the pieces together and tell them how this is going to help them be well-rounded.
Yeah.
So it's always teachable moments.
Yeah. And do you think that it's too much work, though, for us as parents and us as adults? We have so many things to do in our busy day lives that we just kind of overlook it, but we also want to complain about it, too.
No, because I think sometimes if we wait too late, stuff hit the fan, and then we're trying to do damage control when it's too late, when we could have, if you just would have took the time from the beginning to kind of work through something, you might not go through some of the things that happen.
So talk to me about some of the things that you had to encounter when you were growing up.
Well, when I was growing up, like I said, my father, he was in my life until I was about 10, but he suffered from drug and alcohol abuse. So, and he was kind of abusive towards me because I was the first child, and he felt like my mother used to baby me because at the time I was the only child. So he used to always, when he'd be under the influence, he would come in and I would get a lot of the backlash.
Wow.
So it kind of taught me resilience. And at one point, as much as, sons want their father to be around, when he ended up leaving, I was kind of like, it's good. I can breathe now, and I don't have to worry about him coming in, being under the influence and kind of taking the stuff out on me.
Yeah.
And that was because of the vicious cycle, because his father didn't really claim him.
Wow.
So, that was tough. And then when I was younger, I was also sexually molested by a neighbor. So I had to overcome that. And that was one of the things that I never wanted to see any other children hurt. So I kind of took on the role in the neighborhood that I got your back. I don't care. It could be me and you against 10 other people.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tolerate bullying. So I think it all led me to end up being a counselor. And that was just, keeping my faith and staying grounded and like having, my private thoughts and prayers, like, because it was tough times that,
definitely,
like during the day and stuff like that, I'm busy. You don't think about it, but when you lay down, you think about all the stuff that's going on. There's a lot of times I would cry myself to sleep, but I knew when I got up that morning, I would have to keep it moving, and I can make a difference in someone else's life.
Yeah, and I like that you took that. You said that you said something in the beginning, from pain to perseverance.
Yes.
And so you went from pain, and you understand what pain is. So talk to us about the perseverance.
Perseverance was for me just overcoming and looking at my skill set to know, like, okay, I think I'm good with problem solving. It seems like I'm always the calm to other people's storm.
Yeah.
And I really, because at first I wanted to get into marketing and be a businessman, but then after talking to one of my kind of mentors in college, he said, well, looking at your courses, your skills is more toward like humanities and like social work and stuff like that. So he set it up that I had a peer counseling job. And from that point on, when I graduated from college, I ended up being a social worker. And I've pretty much done it all as far as, the human service field.
Wow.
Drug and alcohol rehabs, psychiatric, adolescent and adult units.
All training.
All different
training.
stuff, whatever.
So how does that, in short, lead to the book? Give us some bullet points in that 1 minute that we have. Give us some bullet points on just the book.
Well, the book is based on scenarios, and it's typically is written based on relationships, friendships, family, child drama, the dating game, loyalty, mistrust, health, education, and work. So I compiled a lot of different scenarios over the years that may happen. I changed it a little bit to embellish it and to kind of protect the innocent, because some scenarios is from my family. They don't even know it. They don't even know it, but I kind of used them. I posted these scenarios on social media. I got a good response. People started inboxing me like, hey, when are you posting the next scenario? So it started becoming an everyday thing. Then people started sending me scenarios to post, and I kind of took that platform and made it into a book. So I wanted it to be something that we can have open discussion, because I feel like it's a lost art. People with the phone, cell phone, texting and stuff like that, I thought it would be able to open up dialogue and have people communicating, which is important.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, Mr. David Glover, it's been a pleasure for me to have you on the show today. I've learned so much, and I want people to understand the importance of dysfunction, but overcoming pain to perseverance. All right, until the next episode, we want to thank you guys for tuning in again today. Meet up with Mr. David Glover and get his book, and make sure that you guys support his vision. Until next time, we will see you again. I'm Shay Samuels.